Ren from Hallowed Be Thy Game, and join me on my glorious quest to the best game store in Ohio. Let's check it out. Welcome back to another episode of Hallowed Be Thy Game, and oh my gosh, do I have a good one here for you today. Yes, you heard me correctly. I have made a hallowed quest to that shining game store upon a hill. I have made my way to Warp Zone. Oh my gosh, look, I kind of live in a barren wasteland of retro gaming in my part of Ohio, so being able to make it out to the Columbus area, right on the outskirts is a wonderful town, Hilliard, and it houses a JRPG and Japanese import mecca that all retro gaming fans must trek, Warp Zone. Look, I had a wonderful time. This past Friday, I was able to make it out and spend the day with Darren, the owner. He was so kind and gracious to invite me out to be able to just spend the day with him, and I'm telling you, he gifted me some SMT and Atlas mind-melting goodies. Oh my gosh, I was just completely floored by his generosity, but also I was able to pick up in his shop a holy grail item that has been eluding me and taunting me for years now. But at last, it is finally sitting on my shelf, staring at me ever lovingly from across the way. As I record this for you, I am beyond ecstatic to share with you my experiences at Warp Zone. Look, all the prices you see in today's video are negotiable. Darren was very fair with me, but look, I'm telling you, if you find yourself so much as stepping a toe into the Ohio area, you gotta make Warp Zone a priority. It was just an absolute blast to be around great games and incredible conversations. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a tour. Now, right off the bat, when you walk into Warp Zone, you are greeted by a lollipop chainsaw press kit. Have you ever seen such a thing? I just couldn't believe it. That's so crazy and wild to see. He has such a wild, diverse set of really cool stuff. And seeing Godzilla and King Ghidorah repping the store, I knew I was in the right place as a kaiju fan. But yes, I mean, literally there is a little bit of everything from retro gaming, and he had some banging Switch titles. Look, I know most of my audience is Nintendo Switch and PS4 JRPGs, and look, he's got you covered here. It was fantastic to see Artenelicos, Dragon Warriors. I was just surrounded by greatness. Final Fantasy III greeting me ever so lovingly as I walked in. And oh my gosh, to see good PSP games. Normally in my area, they keep all the good stuff in the back to sell online. Look, Darren does not sell online. He is a firm believer that if you come into a store, he presents the very best to you. And look, I fully believe that's why Warp Zone is so friggin' good. It's because he puts his best foot forward and he's not just trying to upsell you elsewhere on eBay. It was just fantastic to be around retro gaming because, to be honest, it's been kind of harder and harder to kind of have moments and experiences like this to, you know, like I remember loving going to Funko Land. So being able to go to Darren's shop and just be surrounded by history, to be surrounded by just these like wild Neo Geo arcade sticks. Good golly, the signage, I loved every second of it. It had been quite a few years since I was able actually to kind of make the trek over to the Columbus area. I'm making it a priority to get out there and not have such massive gaps in between visiting it again. Because, you know, after the kind of last couple crazy years we've had, it was just a heartfelt and refreshing experience to be around just all of this. It was so wonderful. And what's really nice here is that it is so easy to walk around his shop. He has it not laid out extremely well. Oh man, seeing the Sega Saturn games, it just does my heart good. I was so sad when I was growing up. I actually had a Sega Saturn, but I didn't really have the ability to like look up cool stuff. But the Ease Collector's Edition. I've never seen a lot of these Collector's Editions before. And I love this kind of art wall and like the kind of the signage for like the Neo Geo and all this stuff. It was so cool to see. Good gosh, I could just stare at this wall for hours. I was actually, while I was filming here, I realized I filmed this wall like 3 or 4 times just because I love looking at it. It was like really cool. And you knew I had to zoom in on the Ease 8 cloth poster. I mean, it's gorgeous. I had no idea something like that existed. It was just really fantastic. Just to kind of see the different decades of how like companies would advertise their games and, different markets they would appeal to, and it was really cool to see some Valkyria Chronicles representation on the wall, so I love that a whole bunch. And here we go. Here is the DS selection that is out on the floor. He's got a ton of gorgeous stuff behind the shelf, but it was just nice to be able to be around DS games again, because to be honest, like, there's like a half-price books in my area that'll have, like, you know, DS games and 3DS games, but obviously the selection ain't anywhere near this. And oh man, you knew I had to keep hovering back around the PSP games. Good golly. And the soundtracks. Look, Darren has a jaw-dropping soundtrack collection. I cannot believe it. I'm going to have to try to see if I can film it someday. Like hundreds of soundtracks. It was just really cool. And hey, Wario's here to keep ever-loving watch over the shop. But I was able to see a ton of consoles I'd never seen before, like a PC Engine, and I believe a Neo Geo CD. But again, you know, I'm so far removed from that time period thanks to MMOs and such like that, to where I was just learning so much. And there was a little bit of something for everything, you know, whether it be Atari, Xbox, PlayStation 1, PSP, PC Engine. Look, Darren's in our Discord right now, and he just posted this a crazy pickup he just got of like over 60 PC Engine games. It was just games that I'm just absolutely fascinated by. And what's so cool is he has such a massive selection of Japanese imports. Like the 80s and 90s Japanese cover art for these games is so enticing and like mesmerizing and magical to me. And here we had some like Metal Gear Solid figures that I had never seen before, and some pretty cool Shenmue box. This was actually my first time seeing a Nintendo Labo box kit. That was excellent. But here we go, moving over to the display cases, and you knew I had to hover around the retro games, and just to see things from decades past, it was just an excellent dose of nostalgia. And nostalgia is absolutely my preferred drug of choice. I will bask in it all I can. What I love about this display case here is just that Japanese retro art from the 80s and 90s. It's one of my favorite eras of art. Japanese games from like this time period just have mesmerizing art style to me. I'm enthralled by it. And it was just so cool to see so much in one location. I'm hoping to make it to Japan someday, but really this was just kind of a nice little appetizer to keep me hopeful for the day that I can one day go to Japan. And Darren is essentially an Encyclopedia Britannica of just a vast wealth of video game knowledge. I'm telling you, when it comes to shmups and shooters and DS, I mean, I have learned so much in just a short time I've gotten to know Darren. But what's so cool to see a Gunlord copy here, like holy moly, like NG Dev, I believe their name is. It was so cool to see them repped in the store. And it was so cool to see some PS2 and PS3 games here. Honestly, some of these Ars Technica and Neptunia games almost came home with me. So yes, the PS1 games, oh gosh. There was so much to see in Darren's shop. My mind was still processing it at the time. I spent almost 5 hours there with him, and I'm still like just discovering stuff from looking at the footage again. But just a little bit ago, that Guitar Hero, man, my buddy Danik, he is looking for one of those, and I'm gonna have to get him back up there to Warp Zone so we can pick it up. It was just really cool to see some quality PS4 games and just not the usual suspects all the time. And what I love here, Spider-Man, he couldn't handle the awesomeness. He had to tap out and just sleep it off. And look at these box collector's editions for Switch. It was just, I never see stuff like this out in the wild. Like, it was so cool. And my son was fascinated by that Pac-Man clock. He loved it. But really, heading to Warp Zone just was like a glorious refresher for me to just be able to be around these games that I love talking about, I love learning about. I missed out on so much, but to see the PS1 games on the shelf, and it's just kind of a bygone era, and that's what it felt like for me with Warp Zone, is that I was essentially surrounded by gaming history, what I grew up with. Because, you know, when I was in high school, gaming was not something that was like deemed cool or anything like that, so you really had to kind of keep it under wraps, at least in my school. I mean, I've heard a couple people say it wasn't the so for them, but anyways, how cool was it to see Crimson Skies on the shelf? Oh man, I've heard such wonderful things about that Xbox game, and it was really cool. I need to check it out sometime. I've heard great things. Being able to grow up with the industry, it's been wonderful to kind of see the industry grow as I've grown up, but you know, at a certain point, it's kind of grown past me, and I've been kind of mourning kind of the days of yesteryear. Being surrounded by these games, it was just a wonderful experience and one I'm not going to soon forget. Warp Zone is a must-see destination and definitely one that I highly recommend any and all fans of Japanese imports or Japanese culture in general. You gotta head here. It is awesome to see some Steins Gate, Famicom, signage and stuff like that. And hey, look, we got Danganronpa here. And you know, I'm looking at the DS and the 3DS games and these Dragon Quest games. I'm like, Nintendo, you gotta port these to the Switch. They were so fantastic on the 3DS, and a couple of these Dragon Quest games almost hopped in my cart on my way out to this time. But looking at the Famicom and the Super Famicom carts, there's the color that they would have with their boxes and their cartridges themselves. It really kind of just shows how kind of bland and America kind of got their releases, because these cover arts and just they're kind of works of art to me. I could look at them all day. And oh man, some of these PSP games. I actually grew my PSP collection while I was here, so I'm excited to show you those at the end of today's video. One thing I'm always entranced by when I go to half-price books or game stores is their strategy guide section. I just love the art in them now, and it's such a dead medium that I want to preserve them. I have a few, but I saw a couple here that I didn't have, or I used to have, and I kind of want to get again someday. But it was just excellent to be able to see. And I've actually never seen the Bloodborne tabletop games in person, so this was so cool. He actually had a lot of, I believe they were expansion kits, but it's really cool. I'm not into tabletop RPGs. I would if I had, like, you know, a consistent group to do. But look at these Famicom and Super Famicom carts, just the artwork on these. Like when I was growing up, I loved watching MXC and stuff like that on Spike TV, and just kind of that whole era with like Takeshi's Castle and such like that. It's just mesmerizing. I love it so much. And just to be able to kind of go through here. And what's excellent is, like, you know, in America, like if somebody had like John Smith written on their cart, like you're like, oh, I need to scrub that off. But what's so cool is Darren leaves like the Japanese names that were written on the carts, and it's just such a cool, wild thing to preserve in a form of history in gaming, and it's just alive and well at Warp Zone, and it does my heart good to see. And there's so many of these games I would love to play and just see how they go, because it's so wild to see just like that there's some mech games on the Super Famicom. I would have lost my mind for that as a kid. Because I'm telling you, if you're someone who buys games at times just based on the cover art, be careful going through the Famicom and Super Famicom section. Everything was screaming out to me, take me home with you. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to get back up here as soon as I can. And looking here at the PS1 games, I don't know if you know this, but the first time I actually ever played, I believe it was Final Fantasy 2/4, and Chrono Trigger was on the PS1. And it was so excellent to see Xenogears, and that Vagrant story almost came home with me. No spoilers, but gosh, like, I'm wanting to play Vagrant story so bad. Me and Danik were just talking about it not too long ago. I'm really hopeful we haven't seen the last of that game, because I believe it's the world of Ivalice, if I remember right. It's connected in some way to like Tactics and 12. And I just kind of want to experience as much of that universe as I can. What's so excellent is Darren is always playing some absolute banging top shelf music in the store. And I want to say my YouTube channel feels like it's arrived because he graced me enough to be able to play the YouTube channel on the TV. I feel like I've arrived. My YouTube channel has played in Warp Zone. So without further ado, I'm so excited to share with you some of the goodies that I was able to pick up. Now, Star Ocean First Departure. This is something that I picked up. This was in my collection years ago, but you know, unfortunately, I traded it in, but it is finally back, and I kind of want to think to myself, this was my Star Ocean First Departure. It makes me sleep better at night. But anyways, I just got this digitally on the Switch. I was missing it so much, and after having just recently beaten the Divine Force, which is so freaking awesome, I totally recommend playing it. I was ecstatic to have Star Ocean on the PSP back in the game room. And yes, I picked up a Super Famicom game, SMT Shin Megami Tensei. I was so happy to finally have this. This is one that I'm wanting to pick up either an English patch, or I believe it's on mobile of all things, but I would love for this in some capacity to be available. Gosh, even if it's on the NSO, I would just love to be able to play this. I'm going to try to get a fan patch of this going. and experience it, because I think to this day it still holds up in the eerie, spooky, and kind of disturbing factor. I would love to see the early combat system and like kind of the demon fusion system in this, but so ecstatic to have this in the collection. And Darren gifted me Ys Wanderers from Ys soundtrack. This is his favorite soundtrack, and let me tell you, I am so happy to have this and to be able to listen to it. I've listened to a couple tunes from it. I'm just going to be having this play in the game room. It is just a wonderful, gorgeous soundtrack, and I am so happy to have this. Darren, thank you so much for this. But knowing that I'm a massive Vanillaware fan, Darren blew me away and gifted me Dragon's Crown coffee mug. Look, I'm telling you, we're drinking in style over here at the Hallowed Be Thy game room. This is so wild. I don't think he knew that I collect video game coffee mugs, mostly Zelda, but I am just ecstatic to be diversifying my mug portfolio with some absolute quality. It's gorgeous design. Dragon's Crown is one of my favorite Vita games. So happy to have this. But he also gifted me the SMT 25th anniversary coffee mug. I saw this online, like, I don't know, maybe months ago, maybe a year ago at this point, and I was green with envy. I was so sad. I had no idea how to really get this. It totally flew right past me, and here it is now sitting ever lovingly, holding the tears of all those who would oppose me in it. Oh my gosh, it's fantastic. Darren, thank you so much for this. This is one of my favorites in all my collection now. And also, Darren gifted me a couple art books, and this is fantastic. I can't get enough Vanillaware Dragon's Crown artworks. I'm telling you, Dragon's Crown is so amazing, and it fits so well with Vanillaware, because Vanillaware is really great at taking like a fantasy, ethereal, almost like a Brothers Grimm type feeling world, and just infuse it with JRPG anime goodness. I love the art. I just can't stop staring at it, and I'm so happy to have this and be able to just kind of flip through the wonderful and mesmerizing illustrations. And moving on with the absolute quality, Darren has been getting so many games on my radar, and at the very tippy top of the spear of that list is Nights in the Nightmares. I cannot believe I haven't heard of this game. I mean, it's Atlas, it's on the DS, I need to be playing it. And he gave me this kind of art book manual, and the illustrations have lured me in. I'm telling you, I am loving this. It's absolutely at my top of my list of my must-plays. And rounding out the art book selection, we have Odin Sphere artworks. I mean, could it get any better, Vanillaware? Look, I just recently streamed and reviewed Sword of the Vagrant, which is a massive love letter to Vanillaware, and what better way to celebrate Vanillaware to have it rep in the game room even more. Again, this is just the embodiment of just warm, glowing art. It's fascinating, and I am so allured by all the illustrations. It's fantastic. Thank you again so much for this gift. And one last gift that is currently on the back door of my gaming room is the Sorceress from Dragon's Crown. Now look, it's a cloth rollout poster. Gorgeous art. This one is definitely gracing the room right now, and she's currently beside Vampire Hunter D, so she's in good company. But this right here is just the beginning of just mind-melting SMT gifts that Darren gave me. These are trading cards, almost like a Pokemon trading card. The quality of the print is like a hard plastic, and it's translucent. If you saw like my Soul Hackers 2 unboxing, the character party members are on a similar, very high quality card, and it's just excellent to see all of Kaneko's art just be essentially eternally preserved in my game room in these wonderful illustrations. I love it. You know, being able to play Soul Hackers 2 and see a lot of these finally brought to a 3D form was just incredible. And, you know, Kaneko really set the mold and just drove an entire series with his mesmerizing and alluring art styles and illustrations. Even a lot of the older games that I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of, like their combat systems or progression systems, being able to explore those worlds and see Kaneko's art vision is a major driving factor for that. And just the fact that these are now in my game room, you know, I'm not sure when these were initially printed or run, but it was just incredible to see this. I had no idea there was something like this out there. And it's just a mesmerizing art quality. Some of my favorite demon designs are in this, and I'm so thankful that Darren would just make the cool factor in my game room go through the roof with this gift. And here are the chase cards. You got all the different elemental versions of Frost. Sorry, that's what I call him. I love it. It's so cool to see, and just wild to see kind of the stickers on there from that, and it was fantastic. But also in these trading cards, they would make like art print designs, this different run of them. And it was just so wild to see Kaneko's art, iconic art from that PS1 era with like Persona and like some of the earlier Devil Summoner games. And also Nemissa. Oh my gosh, one of my favorite Kaneko hero designs. I love it. Thank you again so much, Darren. I cannot thank you enough. And then another extremely wild thing he gave me was these Capcom like arcade tokens. It's so cool to have a part of that here in the game room. But my favorite thing that Darren gave me, and this is so wild, this is a Giten Megami Tensei Tokyo Moko Shiroku, please forgive me for the pronunciation, audio drama. Giten Megami Tensei is a game that is extremely infamous. It has very kind of edgy scenes in it that kind of push the envelope. You're never going to see that game come back in any way, shape, or form. This is a fully produced audio drama, similar to like what you might hear on the radio or something like that from like olden days. But this is just phenomenal. I am so ecstatic to have this. I'm going to be playing this at Halloween when I hand out candy. I've been fascinated by this game for so long, and to just have this in the game room, Darren, you're way too generous and kind to me. Thank you so much. I will forever treasure this. And I'm at a loss for words. Thank you. But my absolute holy grail item that I was able to pick up in Darren's shop, he was so fair with me, thank you again, is Persona 3 Portable. I am so ashamed to admit this was not already in the game room. It was a travesty. But getting into Persona 5 and working my way backwards, Persona 3 was essentially that bridge to help me hop over into the SMT side of things with Nocturne 4, Apocalypse, Strange Journey. I love this game. It's one of my favorite games of all time. I've only ever played it digitally. I am so happy to finally have this in the game room. It's gorgeous. I love the art manual. I love the designs on it. It is just sitting on the shelf right now as I record this, and I feel empowered to once again press on to rep the Atlas faithful. It's so amazing. Thank you again. I'm so happy to finally have this. And there you have it. There is my hallowed excursion to the shining game store on a hill, Warp Zone. Yes, here's just kind of the big haul of everything. Christmas came early this year, but again, I want to thank you all so much for watching this. Warp Zone address is down in the description. Put that sucker in Google Maps if you're ever in Ohio and make it a priority destination. I want to thank all of the supporters of the channel. I want to thank Darren from Warp Zone. All of you, your support is so appreciated. Thank you for everything. This channel is in your debt. And also, I want to thank you all so much for watching. Like this video if you liked it, and subscribe and hit that notification bell for more JRPG content. And until then, I'll see you all next time. Right before your eyes.